serious point. I'm delighted. Mental health is a big point of discussion, with celebrities and advocates doing what they can to talk openly about their own struggles and break what is still a stigma in the United Kingdom, in fact, in the world. Now, singer and actor friend of mine, Peter Andre, is one particularly vocal advocate for mental health issues.
And Peter is in the studio. Peter, to much excitement, it's great to have you.
Oh, they've all been at it all morning. Andre's coming in.
Why? Why talking about mental health in a way that you, in the earlier stages of your career, didn't feel able to do in the same way you can now?
I think it was very different in the 90s. Actually, before we start, can I just say thank you for letting me use your dressing room, even though you didn't know until right now that I used your dressing room.
You're one of my best friends. You can do whatever.
Just thought I'd sort of...
Did you leave me a present?
There's two-tier treatment for guests, it appears.
There's a book there that I won't tell you. I'll tell you about it after.
Yeah, fine.
Yes, no, mental health. Back in the 90s, it was very taboo. You know, people think it's taboo now to talk about it. The 90s, it really was. If you said to somebody, you know, I'm not feeling right, or I'm having panic attacks, or they would just, you know, they'd do this a bit like, oh, you know. Whereas now, I think it's because of the fact that we didn't have anyone to really talk to about it. You know, you'd go see a doctor about it, and even they were like, oh, you know, you need to maybe go and check in a clinic, or, you know, always making you feel that something was really wrong or that you're broken. The point is that you're not broken. It's just something that's going on. When you see somebody, we talk so much about guys, especially saying, if you see anything, a little lump or anything, go and get it checked up. They say that about the physical state, but they never talk about if you're not feeling right mentally.
It's really important, and the reason I'm so chuffed to hear, buddy, and I know you'll agree with this, men's mental health, I don't want to make it about men and women, but actually the highest incidence of suicide in the Western world is men in their 20s, and that stigma of not being able to talk about it. We've talked privately and personally. I had a stage for 4 months where I couldn't leave the house, couldn't get out of bed, and was made to go to a doctor, and it opens up the whole thing. I think people were worried it would make you look weak. I think in the business you'd probably be assumed to be whatever. My concern is, and it's not a very popular concern, but I just want to make the point to you, is absolutely people should talk. I worry that we'll get to a point where people will use it in some instances.
Totally understood. But I think, you know, for me, OK, you talk about there were 4 months you couldn't get out of bed. I went and visited every psychiatrist I could think of. I checked myself in clinics in New York because it was the only place, you know, no one knew who I was at all, so I felt safe I could go somewhere. Checked myself in, tried all sorts of medication, made me feel worse. But eventually, as time went on, I found somebody I could speak to. And for me, people will argue that medication or therapy may or may not work. For me, the combination of the two did. Because the medication puts you in the right frame of mind to be able to deal with the problem, but you've got to deal with the underlying problem.
And what was the underlying problem?
Well, it's taken years. I mean, it all started probably as a kid when we first moved to Australia, 6 years old, you know, curly hair, black hair, English accent, big nose. We weren't just picked on, we were beaten to a pulp because it was different back then in Australia. You know, now it's multicultural, but back then there was...
And then you become successful and that hides all those insecurities and everybody sees the public persona. But actually when you go home and there's not crowds and a microphone, then the real worry comes out.
Yeah, and, you know, I would never play it as a victim. In fact, I actually think it's brilliant that I'm allowed to talk about it now, to say to people that, you know, you can beat something like this. It does take work and it is hard, but talking about it is one of the key things, as, you know, going and seeing somebody, being able to talk about it actually gets you to halfway to the point of where...
You did it by working out as well. People do it in different ways, don't they? Yours was fitness a lot, wasn't it?
Well, yeah, but back then fitness was to make myself look a certain way, and then now I do fitness to make me feel a certain way, and there's a big difference.
Yeah.
You know, it's very important though.
What is the message to men and women, but specifically, I guess, from a male point of view? What is the message to people who are feeling a bit like that? Because I never thought I'd get to that point, and I did, and it was awful. Because you don't want to admit it to yourself, right?
Well, I think there's two things. First of all, like I mentioned before, we go on and on to people about if they see anything physically wrong, a lump or anything, you've got to go get it checked up, however big or small it is. But the same thing is here. If you don't feel right, you've got to go see someone about it. And also, I think, you know, everybody's different, everyone handles things different. But what I will say is, some people may not agree, but if you break your leg and you get it fixed, there'll be a period of time where you are fixed. Doesn't mean that you can't break your leg again, and it doesn't mean you're more susceptible to it, but there is a point where you're fixed, and you've got to believe that you can be fixed from this.
Too quick, you've got to ask him this.
Sorry,
Two questions.
I talk a lot.
No, you don't. You're brilliant. The cookbook, he's into a healthy lifestyle. It's fine. It's been such a huge success. I need a free copy.
I left you one in your dressing room.
I bet you left me something. And do you know what Peter, Andre and I have in common?
No, tell me.
Both having babies.
Oh, really? Really?
Not together, obviously.
Clearly. How are preparations going?
Great.
Are we ready?
Right.
Like me, go to
Hang on,
work.
you asked me about a book, and then we went on to a baby.
See, I haven't got much time, mate.
Do I need to write a baby book?
That's what we'll do. Important message, though, about mental health. Talk about it. Yeah?
Yeah, absolutely.
I know it was quick, my friend, but always good to have you on, and thank you. I'll go after the show and find what you've deposited in my dressing room. Peter Andre, what a legend. Thanks, mate.
Peter, thank you so much. And we must stress, if you've been affected by any of the issues we've discussed this morning, please go to talk.tv/helplines, which is full. Loads of relevant resources and advice.